So my name is Ben Gold. I am part of the original team of people that were playing video games in 1982. So with Twin Galaxies, got to meet Walter early on. And I have 3 world records, Qbert, Stargate, and Millipede. And also won the first video game competition, which was That's Incredible, right after the Shooting in Life magazine. So that's kind of my thing. And next to me is Todd Rogers.
Todd Rogers. I'm Todd Rogers, credited with being the world's first pro gamer. I've worked for 42 software companies. I'm a hold over 2,000 world records, and I'm credited with having the longest held video game record recognized by Guinness for over 35 years.
Were you also the first pro gamer, or you got paid for?
I was. Yes, I worked for from 1980 to 1993. Yes.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Richie Knucklez.
I'm sorry. I'm sitting with greatness.
Tell us about yourself.
I'm Richie, and we're from New Jersey. This is Sarah. This is my girlfriend Sarah. We're from New Jersey. And I have the world record on Space Invaders, Phoenix, Pleiades, Space Fury, Stalker.
That's a lot.
2 more. Monaco GP, tied with him.
Oh, tied.
And 1 more that slips my mind right now.
So, my name is Robbie Lakeman. I got the world record on this game called Donkey Kong. I don't know if you ever heard of it, but no, never heard of it. Okay. Yeah. I also got records on Super Pac-Man, Death Race, Stratovox, Cheeky Mouse, Strategy X, and I think a couple others. Or Crazy Kong, that's another one too.
I'm Paul Dean. I have the Spy Hunter world record, and I had the Frenzy world record until Crazy Joel West played over 40 hours to beat my score, so I don't have that one. I'm second on that one. And here's the publishing guy right here.
I have the record on pole position.
Michael Klug. Michael Klug.
And Atari saw my name in the Guinness book and offered me a job there, so that's my take on this. It launched a career, not just playing games. So I worked at Atari and Konami and Namco.
And you still have your record?
Pole position 2 record, yeah.
So,
oh, we're just the audience.
My name is Andrew Gardikis. I am a Mario champion. I've held the speedrun, which is the fastest completion records for Super Mario Brothers 1, 2, 3, Super Mario World, and the Lost Levels. A lot of them have been broken, but I still have quite a few speedrun records. And I have records on Excitebike and a number of NES titles. That's my claim to fame.
Yeah, definitely.
So, what would you guys like to hear from us? I know that we're sitting here, and
What would you say you wish would have been put on documentaries and things that you've been in?
That's a great question.
Hasn't been on there.
Yeah, well, I'll start. I'll say that I think probably all of us feel like this might be a little bit of politics, but when I hear those sting videos on Planned Parenthood, whatever your political view is, after being through the video game documentary thing, I don't trust any video that, unless it is from A to B, you have a forensic person look at it and verify that this has not been cut. Because I've seen my words manipulated, I've seen many words of my friends, I've seen where sentences are cut in half, spliced backwards.
You might mention any of the titles? I mean,
No, I would never do that.
Okay.
But I'm just saying that that's a very common thing that we've seen in the documentary, and if you want to make someone look bad, and you have 200 hours of movie footage, you can make someone look like Hitler.
Yeah, like the King of Kong, for instance. That's a perfectly good, wonderful movie documentary. I will mention names because I don't care. From a viewer standpoint, it's well done. But from a gamer's point that are in the movie, you look and go, hey, wait, that didn't happen like that. It's dramatic. So it's all about who's doing the script and what kind of an audience you're appealing to.
So it was supposed to be a gamer's movie, and it became a bad guy against a good guy movie, which wasn't the original intent.
And in a sense, they tricked us. Or I wasn't as bad, but I felt like Billy got tricked in the sense that we're letting people in our homes, we're showing them intimate parts about our life, and then they come out and they use it against us. You know what I'm saying? Totally manipulate it for their own good. So that's, I'm looking for, it's really weird because I get interviewed by people about once a year, and sometimes I'll spill my beans and spend hours and hours and then it gets, you know, a small article or something, and I'm like, can you record it? I want to keep one day I want to tell the story from my perspective. One day someone might be interested, but you know, it's really weird because I know that usually for an hour of coverage, you get about a minute in a movie.
That's right, they edited it down.
Now you had the opportunity to make your own movie.
Yeah, he's got.
See, that's not true. You're like a producer of a film. A friend of mine contacted me about doing a documentary about what I do. Not only do I play games, we do a lot of organization of contests, and I try to give back to the community by doing a lot of organizing of contests and getting the glory to new people, to other people, instead of always focusing on me. There's so many people out there that use this video game industry just to propel their own self-image, their own self-brand, and I try to also give back and get a lot of new people involved, bring a lot of kids. My daughter's 8, and she is already going for world records. The people that come to my arcade in New Jersey are from 6 years old to 15, and it just gives me such joy to see this new generation enjoying these old games. But the movie that he was speaking of is called Chasing Ghosts. I, like Todd Rogers, don't give a flying fuck. I'll say it. They took my friends, Ben, Billy, Walter, Todd, and spun it to make them look nothing like they really are in real life. The way they are in real life, fun-loving guys, a lot of fun, and cool guys. Even though he may not come across as super cool, trust me, he's really cool. And they made them just look like, they took everything, every opportunity cinematically to make them look bad. And Joel West, who's not here to defend himself, he's probably the only one that really came out smelling pretty good on Chasing Ghosts. I thought they did him not that bad. He was friends with the producers. When we were filming my documentary, my friend was filming the documentary. I had no input on the editing of the movie. He put me in touch with the producers of Chasing Ghosts, and I actually told them to shove it up their ass, and hung up the phone on them. Joel calls me back, goes, "Why did you do that? You just burned a major bridge. These guys are big players." And I'm like, because they really hurt my friends, and I'm not going to condone that. So I basically told them, yo, up yours, bitch.
So does that mean Roy Schultz isn't an asshole, or what?
Oh, he's an asshole.
Okay. No, but wait. What they did, but here's the thing: Roy Schultz is a crazy guy. He is pathological.
Yeah.
By putting him next to Billy Mitchell and everybody else, they're elevating him. Here's this guy who's really, I mean, and I say this in a way like, okay, I played video games in 1980s, okay? But about 1985, I quit. I went out and I got a degree, I got married, had kids, moved on with my life, okay? And there's someone like Roy Schultz that lives in 1985 because there was one game that people might or might not have witnessed, and he lives his whole life, and it's very sad because he's sick. I mean, he's got
I shouldn't say he's not an asshole. He's warped.
He's warped, and the point is that they made a movie where they elevated him so the viewer couldn't tell. They kind of said, who's crazy, Billy or Roy? When it was very clear who the crazy person was. Okay, and that's the kind of thing, the manipulation, you know, that is done in a lot of the documentaries.
When you're filming yourself in a men's room, it's like, hi, this is Roy Schultz. I'm in the men's room. I had to pay for my badge and my receipt. Who does that? What do you do in the back of the urinal? Tell me. Billy Mitchell hasn't done that. Or maybe he has. Who knows? I just don't think he would have that kind of.
But you know what's interesting? Like Roy Schultz was the Kong-Off in last event I was at was at the Kong-Off 2 in Denver.
He was at the second ender.
Yeah, and I remember him almost limping in there. And I felt more sorrow for him. I mean, I know that there's all that bad blood and stuff, but I was like, you know, this is a person, and I felt bad because, I mean, he just was like, I didn't know if he could physically get back. You know, he looked that sick.
That's it.
And you know, but I mean, there's other people that are, let's say, have more venom, and I have a different feeling about them, but that's neither here nor there.
I got another one. You guys ever run hustles, like playing video games with someone like thinks
Making money?
Yeah.
I'm just thinking like, oh, I've never played
They
this.
haven't, they're lying. I mean, I have many times growing up in the arcades and local. I mean, you know, people slap their tokens down, you're like, oh, got another one. Some guy trying to impress his date, put down 2 more tokens. I make him win. I would play like Gyros. I played for 40 hours. And I would intentionally play it on the first guy, get like 1,000,000 points. He'd circle around, come back, his tokens would be still there, and take his tokens off, go next game, put his tokens back down, I'd be still playing. And not only that, I would make the first player, or the 10th player, whatever, every position you have, I play Todd. So when you have 999,990, so he couldn't even get on the board no matter what he did.
I hustled pool.
That works. Still counts.
I was going to say that what I used to do, and this is really mean, and I apologize to the people. Now, I would walk into the 7-Elevens, and I would just go anywhere in town, the places I didn't play, and I was really mean because I would just put in one quarter, and so if their high score on Centipede was 285,000, they have their name 3 times, I'd play one game, 862,000 or whatever, and I'd just play one time, and then I'd walk away. And I did that just on purpose to kind of make that, and I would do that one time on each of the games, and then I would walk away, kind of to leave the mark.
One thing on the better players, we could play a game for 12 hours, so we didn't really need a lot of money to play. The other thing is there were a lot of local tournaments where you could win tokens. Everything was on tokens, so you get a bag of tokens if you won a tournament. So I had all kinds of tokens, so it didn't cost that much.
Oh hell no! I sandbagged American sales in Chicago. I always had a Centipede contest, much like that's here, 3 minutes to play, and luckily I was the last person, and I won an Atari 400 computer. And back then it was about $800.
So, did you play in that Centipede competition on the Eric Ginner one?
The one in Germany?
No, the one in Chicago.
I don't think so.
Because that was.
You would have lost to play against me.
Because there was one that was it was 1981.
Probably not.
And it was I went to that, but Eric Ginner won it.
Yeah.
I didn't even place. But then we met later with at the Life magazine shoot, in Ottumwa.
Yeah, no, he was a talented gamer because I worked with him on a couple projects in Joystick magazine.
Really?
Absolutely.
Is that the contest that they weren't able to pay the prize money?
Yes. And I think Atari ended up paying it because they didn't want their name tarnished. Yeah, I remember that was the one time I never walked in Chicago. There must have been about 200 Centipede games lined up one after another.
Do you have any questions for us?
Me? No, we covered conventions and theme parks in general. So honestly, this isn't quite my niche information. I'm truly just a casual observer.
You're just hearing like
No. It's very interesting, and I'm kind of humbled to be in all your presences. I just feel bad that I don't fully appreciate the accomplishments you guys all have. But
don't worry about it. Most people don't. Just so you know, there's a very small
by the turnout of this.
Yeah, you can see there's this very small sliver of 0.01%, of 0.01% that really are interested in the. The classic gaming. So
right. No, and growing up, I wasn't a gamer. My eye-hand coordination sucks, and so I have friends who own pinball games, and they're experts at their game and stuff. So I realize that there's skill involved, and there's a lot of practice and all these other things. But I've never personally experienced it myself. But yeah, I thought I was just going to come in and watch a panel and hear you guys talk, and I'd be, in fact, not saying anything. So
tomorrow there'll be a much better turnout. For some reason, tonight's very.
Well, it's Friday after work and stuff, so it's.
But tomorrow we'll be on fire.
Oh no, that's cool. And this is a very cool setting, and it's awesome to hear this. But as far as any questions I would have would be very elementary, like. What was kind of your inspiration to start, or and I'm sure you've answered those questions.
Quickly. My inspiration was looking in a manual. I never had friends in school. I was pretty much I raised spiders. So who would like somebody like that? So my inspiration was opening the brochure that Activision came out with in 1979, and it said, if you beat this score, you'll make recognition. I said, well, this is my perfect opportunity to make a name for myself, and I did. And I kept breaking that score until one day they contacted me and said, hey. We'd like to invite you to an event and see how well you perform under pressure by playing in a public venue in front of many people, which led to a lot of opportunities, not just working for Activision, but like I said before, 42 software publishers, where I played against Michael Jordan in front of 150,000 people. You want to talk about pressure, that's real pressure. So if that is an inspiration, of course, the reward and payoff is getting paid to play video games. I used to get $1,000 a day. If the event was 4 days, make $4,000. And they would pay for everything. The hotels, the limos, the ground transportation, your food. And the way I eat, that's quite a bit.
So when you played Michael Jordan, you have your tongue out, jumping from the foul line?
It's all about protocol business.
There you go.
So
what was your inspiration?
It was never I never thought of it as being competitive. So the story I tell is that when I was 13, I was in Houston. I'm from Dallas. I was with my dad at a baseball card convention. he was a comic book collector. I did baseball cards, and we were at the Galleria Mall. And he had to take care of some business, and he says, "You got an hour? Here's $5." And I just remember I think it's 1979, and I got my quarters, and there's this big line, and I'm like this, look at what is this? And so I put my quarter. I had to wait like forever, and it was that bum 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 bum, and it was Space Invaders, and I could not stop. It was like crack cocaine. I've never taken drugs, but if I did, that's what it would feel like. That high, and from that point,
nothing like crack cocaine.
Okay, good to know.
He knows.
Okay, but my point is that feeling of obsession, and I couldn't stop thinking about it. So then I found a local place, and then I would, for the next 3 years, that's all I did. I came home from school, I lived video games, I thought them, and it was all about destroying them. So sorry about that, but that was it. I saw you built a game, okay, Warren, and I destroyed it. And I mean, the thing was...
That was the idea. That was your job.
That was the job. And so then I didn't realize that other people felt the same way because everyone thought I was a nutcase. And then one day I got in this big fight with this guy on Stargate, and I played for 5 hours, he played for 10, I played for 15, and finally I just said, this is a waste of time. I'm not going to play Stargate every day to beat this guy's scores. So I called up Williams and I said, guys, what's your world record? And they said, there's this guy named Walter Day. He keeps track of world records. And Walter said, it's 36 million. And I said, next weekend I'm beating that. And he said, okay. And I called him, I waited, and we talked for hours and hours. And I'm like, what's the high score on Pac-Man, on Donkey Kong, on this? And he started telling me about everybody else that played. And so that was what I was attracted to, was the camaraderie. So I got the world record and then was beaten 2 weeks later. But Walter invited me to go to Life magazine at Tumwa, Iowa, and then I got to meet all the other crazy people, like Billy Mitchell and Steve Sanders and all those guys. Joe West, yeah, we were all there. Later. We were kind of like this big, it was like this big reunion. Like, wow, there's these other people that are as passionate as we are, and so that was kind of how we did that. And like Billy and I. Especially, I'm probably the one person who can truly really give a shit. I mean, we always jab each other all the time because we saw each other in lots of different situations. Most of which we would not be able to share in a public stage.
He told me them all. I'll share them.
but my point is that those were our memories, traveling around, in a broken down bus and doing competitions and all that, and being famous for one moment and then not famous at all immediately afterwards. We thought we were going to be Fatality.
The programmer, Jonathan Fatality Wendell.
Yeah, Jonathan Fatality Wendell. That's the guy who we thought we were going to be. The guy who is the he's the guy who basically was the first real rock star gamer, where he became first of all a millionaire with it. He goes where he today, I don't know, 4 or 5 years ago when I wanted to talk to him, there's these 20-something-year-old girls waiting in line to take a picture with him, and you're just like, wow. I'm like, that's what we thought we were going to be. We thought we were going to be the best. There were going to be stadiums filled with people that were going to have, that were going to have us, while we're battling it out on these competitions.
Like a sports hero.
Yes, something between a sports hero and a rock star. That was what we thought we were going to be. But the problem was that the market crashed before we could get there. It just crashed. And so one moment you're on top of the world, the next thing, all the arcades are closing and no new games are being made, and nobody's really interested in...
Well, you can thank computers for that. Because I was in the industry the whole way with the Nintendo and everything, and saw how the games evolved from, like you say, the arcade, then to the home console, and then to the PC. It's just like, once the PC came out, it's like, what's the point of doing like what we did? Because someone could stay at home all day long and do whatever.
Mm-hmm. But let's steer the conversation in the interview to something positive. There's a resurgence right now. Yep. When I opened my arcade 10 years ago...
Which arcade is that?
Richie Knucklez Arcade in Flemington, New Jersey. When I opened my arcade, I could only really name 4 other arcades that were on the map. You had Fun Spot, you had Ground Control.
A couple years ago, this is like 2 years ago?
10 years ago.
10, okay.
10 years ago. Ground Control, this is even before Barcade in New York City opened up. Ground Control, Fun Spot, myself, And can anybody else think of any other one, that retro arcade that was around 10 years ago? Those are the only two I can really think of. Well, Galloping Ghost is great, but they weren't around yet.
Was
There's another one that.
Oh, you said arcade.
Yeah, there's a classic one in Chicago that the guy was talking about, stayed open for 30 years.
The Haunted Trails is where I played it, and it's still open.
Yeah, so there's, but you're right.
Okay, but I'm talking on a different scale. I'm not talking a home arcade that you don't never see. I mean, you go on the internet and there's chatter about these places, and they promote themselves the way I promote myself. Get out there and make noise and get things going.
Right, there were only like 4 or 5.
There was only like 4 or 5 at the time when I opened my arcade. Now, every city in the United States has a barcade. You can't go to a city that doesn't have a barcade.
And that's growing.
It's growing like exponentially. These events, I was just speaking on the telephone today with my friend Kalen. Kalen said, I would have went to the Kong Off, but it was on the same weekend as California Extreme. I couldn't put the Kong Off together on a weekend that there wasn't another arcade event going on. A person like me that gets invited to a lot of these events, there's something going on at least 2 a month. And when I started, there was 1.
Why
So there is a resurgence. It's coming back. What's old is new. I think the movies, like Retro's coming back, and the attendance at my arcade has gone through the roof.
What about the 20-something kids? Are they embracing it?
Across the board, I wouldn't say there's any demographic that is not embracing it, and I also wouldn't say there's any demographic that is the core base. The only thing I see is people my age that are 30, 40 years old with kids that are 10 to 15 wanting to share what we had special with their children. That's what I see the most, is the father-son, father-daughter, mother-son, mother-daughter bond that's coming out of playing these games. Seeing like a guy that's running one of the, a guy that's helping out here came up to me and said, oh, my son downloaded Q*bert. He just told me. He downloaded Q*bert for the, what was it, the Game Boy?
He said it had on everything. He had on his
and he
tablet,
went nuts.
He had on his phone,
The kid was crazy for Q*bert, and he was a little kid. And his father, when he was explaining to me, actually got emotional and went, yes! So you see, there's a lot of people that are passionate about sharing it with their children, what they experienced. Like, for me, I never knew of Twin Galaxies. I never knew of Billy Mitchell. When I met Billy Mitchell, I met him on the Today Show only 7 years ago. I had no idea who he was. For me, the arcade was a totally different experience. It was punk rock. It was, I live in New Jersey, right in a very bad area where I grew up. And when you went to the arcade, there was drugs everywhere. There were fights in the parking lot every single time you went. And it was more of an element of danger and fun. And that's what attracted me to it, is that it was like going to New York City. It was the equivalent of getting out of your house and going somewhere that was risky. And that was more my experience.
It was like going to New York City without the good Chinese food.
And there was always a fight. Every time I went to the arcade, there was a fight outside, so you got to go out and get into, a little trouble. That's what I really liked about it.
But it's not safe for now. In
LA,
they have a barcade, and it's very upscale, and it's in the arts district, and the really rich kids like to take their dates there and have the $7 drinks, and they don't play very well, but they love it. They love the scene.
What's that called? A hipster? What's that? A hipster?
It's the hip kids, You know what I mean?
We live in San Diego, and there's like a bunch of them now, because there's like a barcade in downtown San Diego. There's like a point-up bars like all over the place.
Yeah, every major city has one.
Do you know of one in LA?
This?
1982.
1982? Yeah. And Vegas has one. Coin Jam, I think it's called.
Yeah.
Vegas has a museum of pinball,
the pinball
like
one.
this.
Yeah, they specialize in pinball in Vegas.
But I think a place like this or a pinball museum is not quite the same as an arcade. I mean, arcade has a different feel, usually food,
but it's still
drink.
a celebration of something that he just got done saying that 0.01% of 0.01% cares about, which I disagree with.
Yeah. Oh yeah, it is coming back. There's no question.
That's true as far as high scores go.
Oh, for who cares who's got a high score? Yes.
I would say this: there's a sentimental, where the power of the classic gaming is in the sentimental. That is, it brings back the memories of childhood. So that's why a movie like Pixels does well, because it brings back our childhood memories. So that part. But I was referring more to the, I will say this: for me, I can play a couple of games, okay, but I'm not mentally trying to set world records.
You're in a different place in your life.
Yeah, I always tell people there's the Brett Favre and the Roger Staubach. Brett Favre, when he was in his 40s, kept trying to win Super Bowls. Roger Staubach, he retired. And so when people say I can kick your butt in Stargate, and I'm like, hell yeah. But you know, but the 16-year-old Ben Gold, you would have had a good run for your money, you know. And but yeah, so that's that. I was also being a little sarcastic. So I hope you did not.
No.
You didn't.
No. I just wanted to.
But it's a good point.
I wanted to make sure that they didn't take that the wrong way. Like here's two really good examples that are quite amazing in my book. When I'll bring Warren and Hubert into this, when they were making Wreck-It Ralph, I was getting a lot of traffic. I have like the Google Analytics and stuff. I was getting a lot of traffic. They were researching everything that was going on in the arcade world when they were coming up with the plot for Wreck-It Ralph. There was a character that came into my arcade named George, and he played Hubert for 45 hours straight, going for the record, which was at 80-something hours, and my employee was vacuuming, and he unplugged the machine after 45 hours of playing Hubert. And all of the attempts of all the high scores at my arcade got absolutely zero press, but the fact that somebody was playing for 45 hours and the machine got unplugged on him, that story went gangbusters. We were getting contacted all over the place. I was doing interviews in like Iran. I had to like translate squigglies, you know, those little squigglies, and it got so big. Jimmy Kimmel contacted us. It was really big. In Wreck-It Ralph, there's a scene where Hubert is holding up a sign, and the game doesn't say game off, game broken. It says game unplugged. So he's holding up the sign. So it made it that far to pop culture. When Pixels was coming out, I was contacted 2 years before Pixels came out, and they asked me to be a technical advisor on the film. They were writing the script. They wanted little anecdotes, like I gave them, when you play Atari football, you roll the ball, your finger gets pinched. When a quarter gets on the control panel, if the guy's playing hard, the quarter slides underneath the control panel, you lose your quarter. Funny stuff like that only a person that grew up in the 80s would understand. And unfortunately, I couldn't leave my daughter for 6 months. I was full-time, 6 months I'd be away from my daughter, and I couldn't do it. So I turned it down. Somebody else wound up being technical advisor. They got all the glory. I didn't get to meet Adam Sandler. But how funny is this? I was doing a radio station interview 2 weeks ago, and the guy doing the radio station, one of the biggest radio stations in New Jersey, he said that he did some research. He was a big Game of Thrones fan. Game of Thrones has an actor in it called Peter Dinklage. Peter Dinklage is the little guy in Game of Thrones. He played on Pixels, the Donkey Kong world record holder, the Space Invaders world record holder, the Centipede world record holder, whatever it was. So he had to do his research to play his part. In the interview, he said, this is Peter Dinklage from Game of Thrones. He said in the interview, which I found when I Google searched it, what did you base your character on? He said, I based my character on 50% Billy Mitchell, 50% Richie Knucklez. How fucking crazy is that? I'm watching Game of Thrones and this little guy is researching me on the internet. That blows my mind. So there is a big reach out there because of the internet. You can thank computers for that, as well as the demise of the arcade.
And that's one thing that's brought everybody together is the internet as well, because it's harder to keep track of people, you know, through the phone or whatever. People disappear, but everybody's got a web page now. You can kind of find what people are doing.
Oh, look who's pulling up. You gotta get these guys.
Come on,
Walter. We were just talking about you.
Doing a video.
Yeah.
They're just talking about you.
The world champion. See you.
Once again.
That's right.
Hey, Walter.
Our head referee is now here.
That's right. Hi. How are you?
Mr. Bingo.
How you doing, John?
Sir, good to see you.
Let me get this.
Can't train a monkey to be a lady.
That's right.
What's up, Scott?
How you doing? Good to see you.
I get mine. I'll have a good meal.
Walter, I haven't seen you for years.
Have a reunion. So.
Gosh, I miss you.
So, how's it feel to be back on top?
It's good. I mean, the time was short when I wasn't on top. But
What a cruel way to do it.
Hey, man, why don't we have Walter say something to the... We're having a video right now. Maybe you can say something to the...
And put it on top of his
So, I'm the challenger and he's the champ. He says he can beat me in arm wrestling. I say he can't. I say he's the pro.
Yeah, feel that though.
hemoglobin.
So, This is incredible. So this is going to be the center of the video game universe for a long time to come. Banning California. Who would have guessed? Plus something. So welcome to the Twin Galaxies Entertainment Festival.
Thank you.
I hope everybody's sticking out because how much room do we have? People coming in here? 2,000, 5,000?
Honestly, sir, not even sure. We've been here since 2, so not one. For all you guys chose.
Nice to see you. Yeah, I've been kind of hopping around. Yeah, I haven't been to an event in a little bit.
I'm Jeff, sir. Nice to meet you.
Yes, sir.
Oh, yeah, Jeff, sir. Jeff.
Jeff Swords and are police. And I actually have a friend named Elise who's a lot like you.
Oh, really? Oh, okay.
I wasn't a bad
I'm on the west, I'm on the other side. Yeah.
I mean, I get mine up here.
Where are you from, Andrew?
Right next to Boston. Right next to Boston.
That's right. What town?
Quincy. Quincy, Mass. Yeah.
I actually didn't know that.
It's
Remember when we stayed in Quincy?
I don't know if Walter told you, he's the founder of Twin Galaxies. That's why he,
He's that guy.
I'm that guy there.
He's that guy right there.
Yeah, that's him.
I'm that guy there.
Perfect. Thank you.
he looks like the guy on the
looks exactly the same. Go ahead and strike the pose. See?
Exactly the same.
Nice, sir.
It's great that you made it out.
Glad to be here. This is so amazing. What a life we've all lived.
You do a HQ or anything?
Thank you.
Yeah, I used to. Well, I haven't done it here. That's the most important thing. Before was
Are you going to be here?
People keep on calling me, can you come to
first thing. Then I went to the first one, second, third, fourth. But then I haven't been in the
How do they get people for that?
Yeah, at this point it's kind of like whoever's the record holder kind of gets dibs on.
You know how it is, everybody wants you all at the same time.
A submission for like, hey, I can do this game, and then they'll say, yeah, we'll put that game in, and it's kind of like, now it's like the record holder is but
oh yeah, he's in the music.
I didn't play like games for a while, and I just like suddenly got obsessed with watching all the clips on YouTube. So I'm like, what? I'm watching somebody play Mario for like 40 minutes. So like they're all awesome.
Wait, what?
Play Mario or like play like speed runs and all the. I was like, this is all awesome. And like, yeah, it's really cool.
My stream is I hate it. My stream just goes down. I have a lot of followers. I can't. Trying to get my stream to work.
This is like
yeah, it's mostly Twitter. Lately I haven't had much time to. I'll get back to this. I don't have any motivation.
So you just do up to Super Mario World, or you do?
I do Super Mario Brothers original is my main game.
I've still never beat it. Like I suck. Like hate it. It's like it's one of those things I've never beat in my life.
So nice to meet you guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Nice to meet you.
Oh, thank you.
I gotta find my girlfriend.
Yes, go for it.
I was I was in 2007. I Super Mario Brothers 5 minutes flat. And that got a lot of attention. And I held the record until last year.
But I think you're so ready.
But it's not like that. It's like if it's like 5 something, it's like pretty awesome.
Like the record now is for
but it's like where I'm trying to think of like where
I don't know.
like if you're like that low, like where you like
it's crazy at this point. It can only really be
That's how
probably done. Whenever I have the time. I'm playing.
How come you guys don't have any Batman here? You know, you got
so you know, like I've heard you guys talk about like saving frames.
When I worked from engineering, they had a soaring mock-up. They actually built chairs.
Right.